following is a CUNY TV special presentation.
The emergence of the tech sector as a primary driver of New York City's economy is just the latest phase of our city recreating ourselves. It's been clear for the last few years that New York is becoming well situated, becoming a leading player in the tech sector for generations to come. With the critical investments we're making in primary and higher education, along with increased access to venture capital, New York's tech sector is a major force, and it's particularly exciting that Brooklyn has become an important hub for this growth in establishing technology companies. AT&T, which is represented by our good friend Marissa Shorenstein. Good morning, Marissa, who is the president of AT&T New York, will be announcing a pilot initiative to bring solar mobile charging stations to Brooklyn and then all the other boroughs of the city. This is an exciting announcement and further indicates the tremendous growth of all facets of the tech sector, and exciting that Brooklyn is in the center of it all. So thank you, AT&T. We give Marissa and AT a great round of applause. ABNY is pleased to partner with the Downtown Brooklyn Partnership, the Brooklyn Navy Yard Development Corporation, and the DUMBO Business Improvement District to unveil the Brooklyn Tech Triangle recommendation. And now to present the recommendations, please join me in welcoming Tucker Reed, the president of the Downtown Brooklyn Partnership.
So, what is the Brooklyn Tech Triangle and why was it formed? Well, it's not really a triangle, and it's bigger than Brooklyn, but something is happening here. And if we get it right, we'll be able to nurture and capture the growth of tech companies in a way that catapults Brooklyn and New York City into a global leader in the innovation era. New York City is now the second leading tech hub in the nation, surpassing all domestic competitors in 2011 in both annual tech and venture capital growth. Now, defining specifically what constitutes a tech job remains a challenge. Various efforts to delineate the industry have produced different results. However, study after study point to strong growth in New York City tech, evidenced by the sector emerging as #1 in citywide leasing activity in 2012, or the 30% increase in the number of tech jobs in New York City between 2005 and 2010. The fact is, labor codes for classifying a tech job simply cannot describe the movement afoot. And whether it's 100,000 or 200,000 jobs, as varying studies put it, the reality is technology platforms are increasingly underpinning the growth of nearly every sector in this city. In the words of one of our trusted advisors on this project, the tech sector is no longer a slice of the pie, it's the pan that everything's baked in. New York City can overtake Silicon Valley as the top domestic tech destination. But to do so, we must plan for the growth of neighborhood-centric tech innovation districts along the Brooklyn-Queens waterfront, where growth of tech-related firms is already being fueled by affordable commercial space, proximity to Brooklyn's sizable tech workforce, vibrant neighborhoods in the outer boroughs, and cutting-edge university research at places like where we are today. This emerging innovation edge is already well underway, with the Brooklyn Tech Triangle providing the key spark. So why here? Well, we all know the garage story of tech innovation. College dropouts like these two, Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, with too much hair and too little grooming, squirreled away in suburban West Coast workshops, usually attached to their parents' house, where they end up developing the next big thing. Well, today's market makers take a different approach. They can be anywhere, since their industry is virtually headquartered, but they overwhelmingly choose to be in cities and work in collaborative environments. Not in isolated garages, but in shared workspaces, incubators, and creative office buildings. Now, Gates and Jobs would probably have a hard time believing that government would be bending over backwards to pull them out of the garage and into office space, working to understand their needs and developing public policy to support their vision. But that's exactly what's happening, because the competition for skilled workers and product development is so fierce these days that if we don't, the city may miss out on talent and tax revenue that we need to be well positioned to face the challenges of the 21st century. And why pay attention to the Brooklyn Tech Triangle? Because it's already happening here. What began an apartment in downtown Brooklyn in 2005 grew into a Dumbo-based company with nearly $900 million in annual sales, with a platform supporting 25 million small businesses worldwide. In 2010, News Corp purchased a neighboring tenant that builds products aimed at putting technology in the hands of teachers and into classrooms for $360 million in cash. And recently, Fast Company named one of our homegrown firms a top 10 company in consumer electronics in the world. A company that went from 3 employees to 2009 to 165 today, the majority of whom are Brooklynites, and who believe they are leading the next industrial revolution by democratizing 3D printing. Now, Etsy, Wireless Generation, and MakerBot are just 3 of the over 500 innovation firms in the Tech Triangle today. 20% of them started in the last 16 months. They support 10,000 direct jobs, and they have a collective impact of $3 billion on Brooklyn's GDP. Their growth trajectory is hot. And between their homegrown expansion and a conservative estimate of citywide tech growth that we hope to attract to the area, by 2015, there could be over 20,000 direct innovation economy jobs here in the Brooklyn Tech Triangle, representing 10 to 15% of the New York City total tech employment and occupying nearly 4 million square feet of office space. The Brooklyn Tech Triangle specifically, but more important, New York City generally, needs the right kind of affordable commercial space, a well-trained workforce, and an environment in which tech companies want to grow. This plan is intended to build on the solid foundation laid in this area over the last few decades and the generational investments made by the Bloomberg administration, our local city, state, and federal elected officials. It focuses on 5 key challenges identified in our study: ensuring that there's enough affordable commercial space for the innovation economy to grow, preparing area residents and students to become a well-trained workforce, improving how we get from here to there, creating a place that tech wants to be in, and making sure that the tech in the Tech Triangle is apparent to all. First, we're running out of appropriate space. Dumbo, which boasts one of the largest tech clusters in the city, has an occupancy rate that is near an availability rate that is near zero. With a waiting list of over 100 companies, the Navy Yard has more applications from design firms and advanced manufacturing companies than it can accommodate. And despite the presence of a considerable number of commercial buildings in downtown Brooklyn, longer-term leases have tied up much of the current space over the next 5 years. The existing space does not feel accessible to the tech and creative industries, they tell us. These companies seek office space with short leases that can adapt to growth, pet and friendly buildings, and open space for flexible work environments. More broadly, the city is expecting high-growth industries to demand approximately 20 million square feet of space over the next 12 years. These startup and medium-sized firms are generally looking for rents below $40 a square foot. This is the right moment for the Brooklyn Tech Triangle, as well as outer borough live-work communities all up and down the Brooklyn-Queens waterfront, where rents are in the range these companies desire, and underutilized buildings can accommodate the growth of the innovation economy. Through a combination of incentives, land use actions, and advocacy, we need to activate key buildings for innovation economy growth, like those found in the Watchtower portfolio at Sand Street, the Empire Stores in Dumbo, the government-owned and occupied buildings that cluster around Cabot Plaza. To make sure space is available to tech companies that is considered inaccessible or unappealing, we will create a master lessee program that will enable us to sign a long-term lease and provide creditworthiness for landlords while providing space upgrades and short-term leases to tech tenants, providing both parties with the comfort and flexibility they desire. We will work to create a commercial modernization incentive program that would encourage owners to refurbish their buildings to meet tech needs, such as creating open plan spaces and undertaking IT upgrades and green infrastructure improvements. Through tax abatements up to 50% of the rehabilitation costs and capping property values at pre-improvement levels. To address our current space constraints, we will explore a new zoning approach just outside the walls of the Brooklyn Navy Yard that would allow for market-desired residential development while incentivizing the conversion of storage and warehouse buildings into space for innovation firms. This special innovation district would allow for the commingling of commercial and residential uses and incentivize owners to open up their buildings to high-employment tenants. a concept that would not have worked in the past, but as the lines between live and work continue to blur in this innovation economy, this model could potentially be applied to other targeted areas along the Brooklyn and Queens waterfront. Finally, flexibility in air rights transfers from properties along Fulton Mall to other properties within downtown Brooklyn, provided owners take action first to transform the derelict upper floors of their buildings into active commercial space. Could help solve the decades-old vacancy problems found on the mall, found in other neighborhoods like 125th Street in Harlem and in Jamaica, Queens. And we won't wait for others to take action on that front. In fact, I'd like to announce today that thanks to the support of the Bloomberg administration, and particularly Deputy Mayor Steele, we will launch our Master Lessee program, a new program that will allow the Downtown Brooklyn Partnership to lease and renovate underutilized space along the Fulton Mall, transforming them into tech and creative office space. While the initial phase of this program was generously supported by the city, much of these actions can be achieved without a huge infusion of public dollars. Instead, by expanding the tradition of forward-looking land use policy in this area, with an eye towards helping owners unlock unrealized value for public benefits, the private sector can respond to the demands of the innovation economy. Beyond space, the other critical asset required to support a tech cluster is talent. The tech triangle could be, but it isn't yet, a new model integrating talent from local communities and universities with high-growth industries. Too many companies in the tech triangle struggle to find workers with the skills they need. Some firms go months before filling empty positions. It's hard to believe there can be vacancies next to 12 universities and 57,000 students. But the tech and academic communities can work together to provide the right kind of training and partnerships that enable vibrant growth. First, we need to ensure that innovation economy jobs are accessible to local residents. Mayor Bloomberg, in his 2013 State of the City address, tasked the city with developing technology training initiatives, and they've done just that. I'm happy to announce that the New York City Department of Small Business Services, in partnership with the Brooklyn Tech Triangle, is launching an intensive web development training program here in downtown Brooklyn that will train an initial class of at least 25 adults with little to no prior experience in web development, who are looking to acquire technology skills. And after completing the training, the program will help connect them to jobs. We will investigate the establishment of a Tech Triangle Innovation Hub in the Navy Yard that would create a new national model for a partnership between a broad spectrum of businesses and higher education, particularly the City University of New York, and would prepare New Yorkers for jobs in technology, design, and manufacturing using the latest techniques and machinery. To support local creators, we will also explore a Maker Product Development Center that would establish a focus for physical makers in the Tech Triangle, with space to create and sell their wares in collaboration with DUMBO-based firms like Etsy and West Elm. Key to enhanced entrepreneurship in the Tech Triangle is the continued dialogue between local companies and universities that should inform curriculum alignment with growth industries, allow for tailored courses, job fairs, internships, and expanded teaching by local experts in the field. To this end, on June 24th, SBS, in partnership with the Tech Triangle, the Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment, and City Tech will launch a summer internship program for digital media, advanced manufacturing, and design, and other tech-based companies in the area. Perhaps most exciting for our hosts here today, I'm happy to share that NYU Poly has been designated by the City of New York to develop and operate the Clean Technology Entrepreneur Center, or CTEC, the latest in a series of technology-related incubators launched by the Bloomberg administration to nurture the growth of New York City's innovation economy. Opening this fall here in Metro Tech in downtown Brooklyn, it will host startup companies focused on energy efficiency, resilience, climate adaptation, and new technologies in making cities more livable. This incubator is truly a collaborative effort with connections to the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce, the Downtown Brooklyn Partnership, the New York Power Authority, Con Edison, National Grid, and NYSERDA. CTEC builds on NYU Poly's track record of successful venture development. To date, NYU Poly's 3 incubators have graduated 35 companies and have created more than 900 jobs, generating over $250 million in economic activity for the city. Next, one of our competitive advantages here in the Tech Triangle is our transit infrastructure. Home to 13 subway lines and 15 bus lines, many companies and residents choose to locate here because of our great transit access. However, it's often easier to get from Manhattan to from downtown Brooklyn to Manhattan than it is to other parts of the Tech Triangle. Thank you. Traveling between points of the triangle by modes other than car is a challenge. Bus service and subway stations are clustered in certain areas. Some stations are difficult to find for those unfamiliar with an area and could leave a person in a no man's land cut off from adjacent neighborhoods. In these tough fiscal times, can we actually make meaningful transportation improvements? Well, we are very grateful that with the assistance of our elected leaders in the MTA, we can announce the extension of the B67 from downtown Brooklyn to Dumbo. This will be the first ever public bus service to travel through the Brooklyn Navy Yard. Building on this success, we will advocate for extending the B24 from southern Williamsburg to the Tech Triangle. The extension of the B24 would create a new single-seat connection from Greenpoint and Williamsburg. You're really looking out for me here, Shree. I appreciate it. Enhancing bus service to the yard every 10 minutes and providing a central critical link to the creative workforce in North Brooklyn. J Street is an important bicycle and pedestrian connection between downtown and the waterfront. And we will work with our partners in the public and private sectors to foster development along this corridor and improve the pedestrian experience and transit connections along this street. We will advocate for expanded ferry service, particularly at a stop at the foot of J Street, one of Dumbo's main streets, and just blocks away from downtown Brooklyn. And we will support ferry and bicycle services and routes that provide critical connections between the Tech Triangle and complementary business districts all up and down the Brooklyn-Queens waterfront. There is a reason that the Brooklyn Tech Triangle neighborhoods are so distinct. They are separated by bridges and highways, underpasses and overpasses, so disorienting that traversing them can feel more confusing than navigating our upcoming mayoral election. People are awake still? Okay. The pedestrian corridors lack the creative energy that has attracted techies to neighborhoods like Dumbo, Union Square, Flatiron, and the Meatpacking District. Certain areas in the Tech Triangle are primed for similarly activated corridors. And we can help by making sure there's activity at the street level with food and entertainment options and dynamic event spaces. Key to this vision is the Brooklyn Strand, a 21-acre series of currently disconnected parks, plazas, and greenways, beginning at Borough Hall and stretching north to Brooklyn Bridge Park, that has the potential to become the central commons of the Tech Triangle. With the buzz of Madison Square Park, the elegance of a Parisian promenade, and the vibrance of the Ramblas in Barcelona. The Strand could begin with a new pedestrian bridge and gathering place over Adams Street, connecting the Fulton Mall to the southeast corner of Columbus Park, extending the Strand's reach into a significant shopping destination. A parking lot at the corner of Adams and Droman Street could be transformed into a central plaza and green oasis amongst the timeless Civic Center. And moving north toward the waterfront, a cafe set on the backside of the World War II Memorial in Cadman Plaza would appeal to visitors arriving on the Brooklyn Bridge, and set in a minimalist footprint, it would hardly disturb active recreation in the park. At Clumber Corner, parking lots and unprogrammed green space could be transformed into a tech terrace, with picnic tables, lawns, ping pong tables, even an ambitious attraction like an observational hot air balloon that provides passengers with a view of the Tech Triangle and the Brooklyn-Queens waterfront from 600 feet in the air. The last stop on the Strand before reaching Brooklyn Bridge Park could be the closed Brooklyn Bridge anchorage. Closed since September 11th, perhaps it could be reopened as a museum and public space dedicated to the mighty bridge with an event space that could generate revenue to pay for it. Additional streetscape and lighting improvements along streets like Jay, York, Navy, Flushing, and integrating major attractions like Brooklyn Bridge Park, Metrotech, Commodore Barry Park, the Fulton Mall, BAM Cultural District, and the Barclays Center into a cohesive Tech Triangle pedestrian experience is critical to the long-term success of the Tech Triangle. Perhaps most importantly, we will work to add food, beverage, and entertainment options to the area through targeted retail attraction, public space programming, and pop-up uses. Finally, the Tech Triangle should be a dynamic, engaging place for all users, sprinkled with forward-looking infrastructure technology and demonstration projects. The benefits and unique character of this area need to be better marketed and made more apparent. Our survey of Manhattan-based tech companies suggests that people aren't aware of the benefits of setting up business in Brooklyn. Most respondents were unaware of the Brooklyn Tech Triangle's great transit links, and less than 10% of respondents were aware of REAP, the sizable tax credit that companies are eligible for if they relocate from Manhattan to Brooklyn. Together, we will work towards dramatically expanding public Wi-Fi within the Tech Triangle, increasing fiber ability, and by assisting with last-mile work, increasing data transmissions and infrastructure, creating digital touchpoints integrated with smartphones, and give the startups the chance to test their products locally, and encourage innovators from our academic and business community to pilot their programs in this area. The Brooklyn waterfront, centered just a short walk from here, has been home to centuries of innovation. Robert Fulton piloted his steamships here. George Washington Roebling envisioned the greatest bridge that the world had ever seen, and its construction solidified the growth of our modern five-borough city. A Scottish immigrant and industrialist, Robert Gere, invented the cardboard box, and off of that innovation, the DUMBO buildings that house the innovation economy today were built. In recent past, visionary leaders have had the foresight to build Metrotech, the Brooklyn Marriott, transform DUMBO, reinvigorate the Brooklyn Navy Yard, and bring online world-class amenities like Brooklyn Bridge Park and Barclays Center. Vision and the grit to realize it is not new to this area. In fact, this ethos has infused this corner of the world for many more years than any of us have had the pleasure of living in it. And it's exemplified by the leadership of Mayor Bloomberg, the City Council and Speaker Christine Quinn, our beloved Borough President Marty Markowitz, and all of our local, state, and federal elected officials that have guided us to this point. This plan is simply the next page in the ongoing story of Brooklyn's creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurship. And while we are focused on our work here, it's our humble hope that some of these concepts, policy prescriptions, and models that we pilot are given broad application in other areas along the Brooklyn-Queens waterfront that are facing similar challenges and opportunities. And in doing so, help support tax base and job growth that makes our city stronger and more competitive in the years to come. Thank you. Now I'd like to invite my colleagues, Andrew Kimball and Alexandria Sica, up here to help me answer questions if you all have any. Jay.
Move on. About how much more space can the Navy Yard provide for future tenants?
The Navy Yard has about 2 million square feet in development right now. We've got about 6,400 jobs, up from 3,600 in 2001. We should double that in the next 5 years. That still leaves about 30 acres of developable land, which you're going to hear a lot more about in the coming months. And I think over time, while we've done an extraordinary job repurposing historic buildings, a lot of which go back to the Civil War era, and that's created a very unique vibe that companies want to be a part of. There are some buildings that are more recent in vintage, where we would have the opportunity to go up and take advantage of the FAR. So I think there's still potential there, but I think what we recognize in this study is that there's just explosive demand around the innovation economy, and that can not only grow in other parts of the triangle, but as Tucker said, all up and down the Brooklyn-Queens waterfront. And I think it's truly promising for the city in terms of diversifying our economy, providing good-paying jobs. You know, the jobs we're providing at the Navy Yard pay 40% more than the service sector. That's exactly the kinds of jobs the city needs. And I think, you know, the future is bright. Thanks. Mary Ann?
What did we learn about what these companies look for, and how can the gravitational pull, you know, in Dumbo be expanded to other locations? What actually drives the decision-making behind these companies and encourages them to grow in Brooklyn?
Their location decisions are largely driven by the place that they want to be in. So key to that vision is not only providing affordable space, but creating the type of environment that they want to be in. So public spaces, right, programming, bar, and I can't tell you the number of companies that said, I'd consider moving to downtown Brooklyn, but where's the bar? That community, or Starbucks, right, coffee shops and entertainment options, right, that community-oriented retail focus and public space programming and creation is incredibly important to them. So beyond, you know, we're already kind of in the sweet spot of transit access and rent levels, but creating now the type of environment that they want to be in, I think is going to be really key to pull those companies up to downtown Brooklyn.
I'm just wondering, this is awesome, actually, but how do we implement this? Bottom line.
Well, bottom line, everything comes down to money, right? But I think what you'll see here, I mean, already today we announced a number of things, right? New bus line, the launch of a master lessee program, the new incubator here in Poly, just take NYU's commitment to downtown Brooklyn and opening up CUSP, right? All of these things are already happening, and I think the vision that we tried to lay out here is really a kind of 10-year approach for getting us there, particularly because, right, public space project, infrastructure projects, they take a long time to be enacted. But there's stuff that we can be doing every day, right? Whether it's approach from a landlord's perspective in terms of curating their space a bit, the types of tenants that they're attracting. I talked already about the retail and public space amenities. And then on the public sector side, look, we're going to be working really hard to implement a bunch of these public policy recommendations with our partners in government, both now and with the next administration, and trying to line up public dollars to execute on a bunch of these larger infrastructure projects. So again, the vision took a community. I think the execution is going to take a community to implement as well.
There are more students in downtown Brooklyn than there are in Cambridge, Massachusetts. So I know we have a connection with NYU Poly. Are we connecting with all the other universities? And the second part of this is the tech meetup coming to Brooklyn. You know, I've been urging that, and I want tech meetup to come to Brooklyn.
Two answers. I mean, one, to the university question, absolutely. We're working with all 12 colleges and universities in downtown. In fact, as part of this effort, we've been able to pull together a working group where we really now get the schools together once a quarter to talk about everything from curriculum alignment and introductions to tech companies and that dialogue, which really wasn't taking place as robustly as you would think before, but also things like shared facilities, opportunities for student life and public programming to really start to integrate the schools together into a kind of downtown Brooklyn college town, right? That's been a big focus of what we're doing. And then on the tech meetup front, yes, I know, I mean, I don't want to steal their thunder, but I know New York Tech Meetup has been talking with Barclays Center quite a bit about hosting the largest tech meetup that's ever taken place, at least in this town, maybe globally. I won't be too illustrious with it, but I think stay tuned, more news to come on that, right?
There have been a couple of other sort of pivotal moments in Brooklyn over the last half century. One was saving the cultural institutions in the 70s. Another was Metro Tech in the 80s. Both of those required the commitment not just of the elected officials from the immediate area, but on a borough-wide basis. So what's the strategy for engaging the political leadership in the communities beyond the Barclays Center, and for building a consensus and providing some benefits for the people who live on the other side of Brooklyn?
I will just say that my job is to focus on downtown Brooklyn. I have a specific geographic area, whether it's lines drawn on a map or the idea of a place, right? My responsibility is to focus down here, and I think from the perspective of all three of our organizations, right, our focus has very much been on the Brooklyn Tech Triangle because that's what our boards pay us to do. Look, over the long term, and I think we talked about that a lot in this presentation, we think there's applications here or models here that we'd like to pilot that could have application in a bunch of other areas of the city, particularly in Brooklyn and Queens. And look, you look at the creative workforce in Greenpoint and Williamsburg that's really supporting a bunch of these jobs. You look at the creative community growing up around the Gowanus, right? The opportunities in southern Brooklyn for similar things. So, our hope is that both elected officials and policymakers, property owners, tech companies themselves take a long, hard look at Brooklyn and realize the opportunity that's here.
Thank you. We're going to play some basketball on the other side here. Anyone wants to have a pickup game, we'll make teams. Thank you, guys.